Hello, everyone. Apologies for the lack of broadcast for last week's Zandvoort race, but we are here in the for the final round of the Simufur Pro Platinum Invitational Series. We're here in Imola, a very legendary track, home to famous races like the San Marino Grand Prix, Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, and most recently the race in the World Endurance Championship. But right now, it is hosting the final round of this Simufur Pro Series, and based on the superstitions of this track, based on the community has for it, it ought to be an interesting race. What do you think, Wolfin?
I absolutely agree. We've seen tears, we've seen battles that you really can't see anywhere else. It has been this track, as far as Simufur goes, has given us nothing but very interesting instances and heartbreak. And as I say that, Simon Luck has just set the new fastest time of 1:48.5. This should definitely be interesting, especially with this wet weather. I almost want to say that Imola, usually when we do these events, is always in the wet for the reason of if it isn't, it causes chaos. And I think now it's definitely working to Simon's effect with their rally driver experience. Oh, as I see that it get really, really loose going
Oh,
into the
go
corner,
wide!
a little wide. They kind of ate a little bit of curb, and oh, that could have gone horribly wrong for him, but thankfully they were able to save it.
Absolutely. As we go through Katie's view, that is the last two corners. That's the Rivatsa corner. I wonder what time they'll put on the board. It looks like a 1 second gain, and um, maybe this could be a good time. But 30 seconds of practice remaining. This is the last few moments these drivers can get the groove of this tricky conditions in a tricky circuit, and this practice session is all going to play dividends into qualifying, which I believe will be interesting, especially considering the track evolution in the wet.
Yeah, definitely. With the wet being very much of a factor here, it's going to definitely put some drivers who are not used to driving in the wet kind of out for a loop. But the servers are up for a week, so they've definitely have time to practice, get their cars dialed in, and see what happens. But I also want to point out, I'm going to knock on wood. We've had this happen where we are expecting a wet race for both practice and qualifying, and then all of a sudden during a race it suddenly goes dry. I hope we don't have that happen again, but it would be very interesting if it does, as we see Azure
Ooh,
coming
as
out
you're
of the
going wide.
they're very wide. Actually, that was coming out of the Vane Alta, and they were able to save it, thankfully. But this is going to be their last chance. I think this lap is still going to count.
Yeah, this lap's
So
still valid.
it's still valid. So should still be a very interesting time. Looks like a fairly big gain. Let's see what it's going to do. The answer will be
Not quite.
not quite. Same position.
Alright, let's look at the last driver to come across the line, Caffey. Last week, recently crowned the Simufur Pro Platinum Champion in terms of the math, They already have this championship secured last week, so it's going to be interesting to see how they'll do in this race. Maybe they'll take it easy, or maybe they just want to have fun and still give it their all in this race. All right,
And
we are looking into the track map as the drivers come out to qualifying. This Imola circuit is a really legendary circuit with 19 turns in total. As we get the highlight sections such as Variante Tamburello and the Villeneuve chicane, and then the Tosa hairpin, three iconic track sections, not as iconic as Aqua Minerale, a really tricky section, followed by the tight and twisty Alto chicane, coming into the Rivatsa chicane to complete this circuit.
yeah,
And
definitely an interesting circuit. You and I have both driven this track before, and you and I both have had pretty good success here, especially in the wet. I don't know why, but like this wet circuit in Imola has always worked for people like even in the wet. It's just one of those tracks that if you know what you're doing, it really can work out for you. So if you are here, if you drive this track a lot or just in the wet or in the dry or anything, it just works out. I don't know why. It just feels like a really good track. So
Absolutely. Brings me back to my days with my first main series silver class podium. And of course, Imola is my personal test bed for testing out cars, testing out setups on ACCs. As we come out onto Azure here, who is about to start a lap. We are going on board with number 765 RRP McLaren. Let's see how that track is in a much bigger perspective as we go into the main straight, coming into turn one. Technically, you go flat out, but it's technically a turn one because you have to really turn as you go slightly left, brake hard. This is the first complex, the first braking zone, the Tamburello chicane. Very iconic, very interesting for lap ones, and as they exit just nicely out there, passing by the Senna Memorials, coming into the Variante, the Villeneuve chicane, left-hander coming into right. Very interesting section as they go, put the power down and brake hard once again into the Tosa hairpin. Really tight. You really have to be patient under the power and get that exit speed. I think they've got that exit speed quite perfectly as they head into the sweeping left-hander of Piratella. Coming into the inside, don't clip too much curb. I think don't go too wide. I think Azure's done that quite nicely. Coming into this really famous complex, the Aqua Minerale, one of the trickiest sections to slow down for. But Azure slowing down quite nicely, almost goes wide, but I think that's still a valid lap. That is still a valid lap as they head into the Alto chicane, braking hard. It's going to be interesting bumping over those curves. Oh, it's quite a bumpy ride for Azure, that's for sure, but getting under power as soon as he can, because it's quite a long straight before the final braking zone of this circuit. Braking hard into the two final corners, the Rivazza complex, turn one turn, two turn. Get your exit right, go as well. Oh, but Azure's got a bit of a snap of oversteer, but I don't think that will disturb him too much. Let's see what Azure can bring to the table. It is a 1 minute 40. It's a 1 minute 48.1 for Azure. Let's see who else can beat that time. It's Newt with a 49.5. It's Simon Luck who beats Azure's time and temporarily holds provisional pole with a 148.1. That is a very close margin. That is 5/100ths of a second.
yeah, 500ths of a second, and we saw in practice that Simon is just in the groove in this Aston Martin, doing very well. As we see the rest of the times going in, Wuschel now takes provisional P3 and doing an excellent job as we follow along with Simon heading down around the Tosa hairpin, heading back up the hill now, not too far behind Newt, as we see a new fastest lap from Caffey, a 148.0, very just 1/10 off of Simon, or 1/10 ahead of Simon. Very good time. Now we just gotta wait and see what else they can do as they head to Aqua Minerale. Definitely showing very interesting signs so far as to how this race might turn out. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Absolutely, this qualifying session starting to spice up a little bit. The top three separated by less than 1.5 tenths of a second. As we continue on to Simon Luck, who's not on the best lap, unfortunately, but right behind him, Wuschel, quite a big gain. Their delta really huge in our eyes.
That's almost a second gap.
That's a whole second. That's nearly a whole second being chopped off. Let's see where this brings Wuschel.
This is actually going to be pole, actually. Let's see what it's going to be. The answer is going to be yes, a 147.5. What a drive from Wuschel.
That is Wushel with the provisional pole in that number 69 short racing Porsche, as we also see RK, who's also got a time to beat Caffey, only 3 tenths down on Wushel.
Yeah, not bad at all. But then again, these are the early laps, so we're not going to see the best times up until a little bit later once those tires get warmed up. Well, I should say warmed up. They're going to get as warm as they can be with all this rain and everything on the track. So it definitely takes a little bit for those tires to warm up. But definitely going to be seeing a better and better times as the session goes on. And as I say that, RK's now got a 2/10 gain, 3/10 gain on his current best. And let's see, that will get them very close to pole. If they're able to keep this going, this could be a our new fastest time for RK. As we see, unfortunately, it looks like Wushel's gone wide at some point as they let RK and Newt by. They must have had an incident at Aqua Minerale. We don't really know what happened, but as we head down the main straight on our way to the Ravazza complex, should be very interesting. They did lose a little bit of time going through the Alta chicane, but are regaining it back going into the Ravazza chicane. Those two corners, like, you could get a lot of time if you get that right. And boy, oh boy, RK is definitely trying. 2/10 gain. I don't think it's going to be enough for pole, but it's definitely going to maybe get them lock in their P2. But as I say that, look at this. Caffey is on a 0.7 or 7/10 gain. So that's going to, I think that will more than likely give them pole. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Absolutely. The track evolution really ramping up. These drivers, the more they race on the circuit, the drier the racing line gets and the grippier those tires become, as proven by Caffey, who has a 1 second improvement and takes pole. That is pole position by half a second.
Yeah, what a absolutely monumental run by Caffey. That's that's going to be a hard time to beat. I'm not going to lie. We'll have to see. Wushel, unfortunately, is still struggling a little bit to get their tires back up to temperature and maybe try to eke something out. They got 10 minutes to get this done, so we'll see what happens.
Absolutely, but so far a Porsche 1-2. Just like in Weki yesterday, it's Porsche dominating the grid, but behind them is the Aston Martin as well as the two McLarens. And I think Wushel's backed out of that lap, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe their car just isn't agreeing with them. Maybe a quick setup change will be needed. They still got time. Still 10 minutes, 45 seconds left. So definitely got something in the left as we follow along with Saber with a little bit of a gain here. This could be a position change. This could take Azure's P5 away if it keeps up going like this as they head into the complex. It's still fairly good. We'll have to see. They're heading down the main street. Still 3/10 up. So it's still, well, actually, it's bounced between 2 and 3. Is it going to be enough, though? It'll definitely be close. The answer is going to be yes. A 1:48.095. Definitely a really good time for Saber.
Absolutely, as Wushel comes out, assumably with a fresh set of wet tires. I think this will really help Wushel in their quest to try and steal pole from Caffey. But right now, behind them is Katie, who is on a gain, 2/10 gain, 1/10 gain. It's very close, but it's going to be interesting because Katie is just coming out of the Tosa hairpin, but looking back at Wushel, warming up those tires as much as she can. They are coming into the Tosha hairpin as well, and it's going to be, and I think Newt is on a gain as well. We have Katie and Newt on a gain as Wushel still warms up. Here we go. Newt is on the, that's the Alta chicane, putting down the power. That is 2/10 still. Katie is on an improvement as well. This is going to be interesting as these two, they're practically on the same section into the Rivatsa complex. Left-hander 1 and then left-hander 2. Where will this bring Newt? That is quite a gain for Newt. 4/10 down. Will this make it? Will this give him a steal to any of the positions? And this is the time. What can you do? It is not enough to steal the time from Azure, but Katie with an 8/10 gain steals it and goes up to P5.
What a drive by Katie. They were on a roll. These Porsches are doing incredibly well in this weather. You would honestly, I was expecting these cars to have a little bit of trouble in the rain, just due to the fact that you have the motor in the rear. You're dealing with a lot of heavy curves, but these drivers are really working the advantages of the Porsche into this track as best they can. As we look, I am looking at nothing but green. All of the times right now are all solid gains. They are giving it everything they can. As we see, Azure Goat is on a half-second gain. This could be a few positions jump if they keep this up. As we follow along with Simon heading up toward the
Tamburello.
Tamburello. As we follow back along with Wishel, just heading out of the Tosa hairpin. Wishel is on a 2/10 gain at the moment, and that will get them, if they keep this up, and they're actually now they're like right on the brink. This could be a P2 if they're able to keep this up as they head into Aqua Minerale. Nice and easy, no problems there. The fact they gain a lot of time, they gain 2/10 from that. That's going to be huge if they're able to keep this up heading into the Alta complex. Let's see what happens. Nice and easy. Brakes are perfect. They're able to really cut into those corners and get it just right, keeping that time gained. Now they've only got one complex to go. Keep this up, and they will probably, if my math is correct, they will take P2 with this time.
Absolutely, Wushel in those fresh set of wet tires. That set clearly paying off for her as she comes into the final corner, into the main straight. That time, 3/10 down. That is definitely a steal and will take Simon Luck's P2.
Yeah, definitely a really good run. Now they've got P2, but now they've got to go chase Caffey. They're still a couple tenths off. And unfortunately, I guess for them, Caffey has not gotten a massive gain as of yet, so that time is still sort of up for grabs if Wushel's able to get a really good lap going, and that could take away the pole position from Caffey if they're able to do it. They've got 5 minutes to do it, though, so not a lot of time left.
Yeah, Caffey right now, the dominant figure, the inaugural Simufur Pro Plat champion, proving those guts and just making those times matter. Currently, they are nearly matching their time. They are zeroing with their delta, but I think Caffey wants to extend that gap to make it harder for Wushel.
Yeah, I agree. That's what you want. You want as big of a gap as you can if you want to keep that pole. But at this point, no matter what, even if Wushel is to take that pole position, they're still in the front row. All Caffey would need to do is just have a really good launch, and it's game over. So we'll just have to wait and see as they head down into the Alta chicane. Ooh, a little bit of snap oversteer coming out of that corner. They got pretty deep going into that second part of the chicane, but were able to hold it off masterfully. So far so good, and they are actually gaining a little bit of time with that. Not a lot, but a little.
Yep. And as Katie crossed the line, Katie has made that a Porsche 1, 2, 3 at the moment. The Porsches clearly proving their skill in the wet weather conditions. These cars are mighty machines when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm honestly a little surprised in doing the fact that these are rear engine cars that have like they're very unruly if you don't know how to handle them. And you would think that something like, say, like the Aston Martins or the GTRs that are racing today, would have a little bit of an advantage because they could abuse the curbs a little bit more than those cars. But I guess it really is down to driver skill at this point because as I say that, Azure out of nowhere has just taken P3 from Katie with a 147.257. What an awesome run from Azure. They're really giving it everything they've got as they've got 3 minutes to set another good time. They're definitely climbing back up there. We'll see what happens from there.
Unfortunately, as we look at Simon, who has clearly lost a lot of time, clearly not finding the pace that he wants, as their time is dropping them into 6th place. They are trying their best to create a fast lap that could send them into the forefronts of qualifying. But as we look back on Wushel, those fresh tires once again, 4/10
Oh, here
down
we go.
into the main straight. What will that be? This is definitely a steal if Wushel can keep the foot down,
Yes,
and
it
it is
is.
a steal. Wushel with a 146.8 deals pole position from Caffey for now. But can Caffey fight back? They are on their lap just now. They are on another lap.
Yeah, on another lap, they got in only 2 minutes to do it. That means they've only got 2 chances if they keep this up to get that pole position back. They definitely are going to try. They're already in 0.1 ahead, but it's still anyone's game. If Wushel's able to keep this time up, that's going to be provisional pole, or that is going to be pole for Wushel. And look at this. Wushel is actually gaining time again. I'm watching their time deltas bounce between like about 5/10 to 1/10 on their delta. They keep that up. It's going to make it a little bit harder for Caffey, but Caffey's definitely firing back. They've also are gaining time. It's down to the wire here. 2 minutes to go.
Absolutely cracking qualifying sessions. The two Porsches duking it out for the fastest time to get pole position, to get that advantage coming into turn 1. Will it be Wushel? Oh, Caffey's back down. Caffey's gone wide. And that's opened the door to Wushel, who is currently 2/10 down on their fastest lap time.
Oh, it looks like they had a little bit of a lock going to Aqua Rally. That corner strikes yet again, and that's going to give Wushel all the chance they need. They're giving it their all. 4/10 up on this sector, going into the last 2 corners. All Wushel has to do is keep it going, but they also go wide.
Oh,
Commentator's curse strikes again, I guess. That was, the last corner. On the last corner, they actually almost had it, but they had a little bit of, looked like snap overs here. But look at this. Azure's got 0.5 ahead. This actually could be a steal out of nowhere. Let's keep an eye on this. They're heading down into the Ravazza complex. If they're able to keep this up, this could be massive, and this could steal the pole from Wushel.
Absolutely, the McLaren taking advantage of the mistakes these two Porsches made into the main straight. Is it enough to steal pole position? It's going to be very close.
Here we go. The answer's going to be...
It's
yes,
pole
it is!
Position by 0.02 of a second.
What a try from Azure. Azure gave that everything he could. And guess what? 15 seconds on the clock. Nobody's going to be able to beat this from looking at the times. Yeah, Caffey's on a 0.1, but I don't think it's going to be... Caffey's going to be close.
Caffey's gaining, really gaining out there as they go past Piratella. Coming into Aquamarine Rally, will they learn from their mistake? It looks like they have learned from their mistake and it's really pushing it once again. And it's a big gain for Caffey. It's a big gain for Katie as well. The two Porsches are trying to steal that pole position.
Ooh, that's a big bounce.
I think that's unsettled. That's almost unsettled Caffey's car, but Caffey still pushing on. Caffey is only 1/10 down. They are currently 3/10 down on their fastest lap as Katie comes across into P3. What can Caffey do as they head into the Ravazza complex, coming into the final corner,
that's wide.
Coming into the main straight? That is 4/10 down. That is clearly going to be pole position as they head into the cross, and it is. Cafe with a pole position. That is
at the
that is
last minute.
absolutely, that is quite a way to steal. That is quite a way to send off the last qualifying session there.
Yeah,
My
that was
goodness.
that was a really that got really tense really quickly. I almost thought Azure had it, but then Caffey out of nowhere was able to get that one good run, and that was all they needed to reclaim pole. And now it is a Porsche and McLaren 1, 2, 3. So this should definitely make things interesting.
Absolutely. These the this is still the qualifying session. I am looking forward to what could come into the race because you do. But Caffey with a pole lap that isn't any purple sector. I think this is one important thing about qualifying. It's not always about the fastest sectors. It's sometimes about the consistency. You can have a fast sector 1 but a terrible sector 2 and 3, just in the case of Azure, or a terrible sector 1 but try to make the most out of sector 2 and 3 in the case of Wushel. But Caffey keeping those times consistent, that's how you steal pole position.
Yeah, I'm also, as we're talking about, I'm checking out the chat in the race series, and Asher's a bit smug right now, and absolutely deserves it. He denied a 1, 2, 3 in he denied what almost was a full 2 row Porsche gain with that absolutely monster of a lap, and absolutely Imola is going to give us a little bit of a interesting fight. So a little, I'd say about they're 3/10 up from the best time. However, I'm going to point out that these times, even though they are qualifying, does not sometimes doesn't go to the race, especially if if somebody is able to get a good jump. Azure has been very well known to get an amazing jump off the start, and if they're able to keep this up, they will if they're able to get a really good jump off Caffey. He's been really good at defending from Caffey. This should make things very interesting up until the pit stops.
Absolutely, it's deja vu once again for Azure and Caffey. Once again, they steal the front row and will be lining up side to side coming into turn 1, the Tamburello chicane. It is going to be interesting to see how they will battle their way from that straight into the first braking zone.
Yeah. And this is definitely going to be interesting. I do want to point out, though, as I was checking chat, Saber has brought up a good point. It's gonna be, though Saber had a rough qualifying, he did bring out the good light in it, in the fact that he can't murder the entire field if he's in the back of the field. So yeah, I guess that's good for us, because then we can't watch an entire field get absolutely eviscerated because Saber decided to eat himself into space by going a little bit too deep into turn 2.
Absolutely. As the drivers are already lined up at the grid, as it seems, it's 8 drivers lining up to bring the battle and send off this season as we head into our grid. As we will, we're not doing all right, but the drivers making their setups, tuning their cars so that they can have the optimal race trim and try and take advantage of each other. It is a
Yeah.
very. I wonder what were the drivers think of turn 1? Is it that Imola superstition? Like, will there be a big one coming into the Tamburello chicane?
I, I want to say yes, but at the same time, a lot of times when we've had those incidents, it's mainly due to the fact that we have a lot of cars in the field. Somebody just barely misses their braking marker, and it just causes a pinball effect. Or in the case of Saber, they just go a little bit wide, hit the curb, and yeet themselves into the guy next to them, causing an entire field to commit unalive. But that is what it is. No ball busting there. We totally will never forget that moment because it was caught live on one of our other streams. Um, but anyway, uh, definitely, I definitely don't see. I don't see that happening in this race, honestly.
Absolutely.
But you know what? I could have jinxed it just by just by the sake of me being a commentator. So we'll have to see.
Absolutely, I still remember that incident in the front of my very eyes. But getting into the grid walk, here we have once again in the front row. It's your usual Cafe versus Azure business, with Cafe in front and Azure in the RRP McLaren right behind him. In the second row, in the second row, you have the two Porsches, the number 69 short racing of Wushel and the number 6 of Katie, who is just right behind them. I wonder how they'll make the jump on Azure. And then our penultimate row, our third row of this race, number 5, that Escargot Aston Martin of Simon Luck, and alongside him, the number 250 of RK in that McLaren. And filling out the final row for this final race of the season, you have the number 7 Nissan GTR of Saber Kitsune, and starting and finishing off our drivers, the Short Cub Bluey car, Aston Martin car of Newt, as the drivers are getting ready. Their engines are starting. They are ready to take on the formation lap as they wait for the green lights.
Yeah, this will definitely get interesting. I hear the engines go off, here we go. First round go. Last time we get a little bit of a uh, prep for the starting race. Wow, my brain shut off there. Um, anyway, so here we go. We're setting up for the formation lap as they head down toward turn 2. Nice, nothing to really worry about. Again, there's only 8 cars on this field, so should not really cause any issues. It's just right now it's just going to be a matter of who can get their tires warmer at one point or another. And as we follow along, that is Saber. We're following along with live as they try to warm up their tires. But interestingly, I don't like, you see the cars ahead of them are weaving, trying to get those tires as warm as they can. I don't notice Saber doing that, and I think that's due to the fact that they're doing it the other way, in which they just hold their brakes and toast up the tires that way.
Absolutely. Two techniques on ACC to warm up your tires. One is brake dragging, as you saw from Saber, and the other, weaving left and right, though the latter may cost some of your tire life.
Yeah, the latter does cost your tire life. And I also don't think it's particularly the wisest decision in a wet circuit to be weaving left and right. I mean, yes, these are pro drivers, they know what they're doing. But I guess for me, as an AM driver, I'm sitting there looking at this and I'm going, I couldn't do this. I would probably die.
Absolutely. Marcus Ericsson could hit you out of nowhere in that situation. But as we look at the rear wing of Katie, you can see Simon weaving aggressively, trying to get as much temperature to those tires as much as he can as they come out of Aqua Minerale. Simon again, once again, weaving. Really
Ooh, they're
aggressive.
really weaving this car. They're trying to get those tires as warm as they can to get a really good start as they head toward the Alta chicane. You know, no big heroics here, obviously, but here we go. Only only one complex left. It should be double file any second now. So we should be seeing them line up as they get ready to head into the Revolta complex.
Absolutely, they are about to line up into double. They're about to line up double file. As you can see, Azure already pinning the throttle, trying to get the advantage on Cafe as they roll side to side next to each other, coming into the Rabatsa corners. And this will be the last race of the Simufur Pro Platinum Invitational Series. It has been quite an interesting ride with you guys. I hope you are ready for one. I don't think we're across the line yet, but look at these two, Azure and Cappy, side to side. Katie close. But I hope you guys are ready for one last race of the inaugural Simufur Pro Plat Invitational Series Season 1 as we wait for the green light.
Any second now. We're still waiting. Should be right about now,
And it's
maybe.
green, green, green. It's Azure. Azure with the great start. Cafe side to side. They are side to side as always. Coming into turn one. Who dares to break last? Azure on the outside, Cafe on the inside, and Cafe's got that inside advantage. But Azure weaving around, trying to find the better corner exit. The two already running away, as it seems. As Wushel falling back behind.
Falling back behind, a little bit of a rough start for Wushel, which kind of bunched up the field a little bit, but they're gaining right back
That
up
is Simon going wide.
Yeah, that was Simon going a little wide.
That gives attention to Saber Kitsune coming around the outside of Tosa, trying to find the sniff. Oh, still committing to the outside, but these two squabbling. Newt is right on their back and could take advantage of their little scrapping here and here.
Yeah, as we follow on board with Saber as they head out of the corner. No problems whatsoever, but they're still trying to find that one little mistake. It's still early in this race, so it's way too early to start making those crazy moves. So I think at this point, Azure's just waiting for Simon to make a mistake and hopefully be able to gain advantage of it.
Absolutely, as you can see, RK close to that Porsche of Katie. Really up their rear bumper, but Katie with a slightly better exit. But RK's got that slipstream. Who dares break last into the rim on the corner? As you can see, Katie, as you can see, RK is a bit late, almost hitting the rear end of Katie, but oh, that's gone wide. RK's gone wide, and that's cost him. And I think you can see in the background, Saber and Simon still squabbling out as Cafe runs away with the lead. Currently, Cafe runs away with the lead with Azure and Wushel in chase, but coming back to this battle of RK versus Katie, coming into turn one. Oh, that's RK gone wide. That's RK gone wide.
Really wide going into the corner. I think they tried to break as late as they could, but that's going to open the door for Simon, and who is right now right on the back of RK. Trying to gain a little bit of time as much as they can, but the field is starting to even out a little bit with these little battles here and there as they head into Tosa. No problems whatsoever. No problems there, thankfully, as we see that RK has been the only one to gain in position. I think that was just due to Simon just having a little bit of a rough start, and it's worked to RK as the rest of the field is now evened out.
Absolutely, but Simon in the race is starting to gain back on RK right up the rear bumper of the McLaren. Trying their best, and that's Katie! That's Katie's spot! Almost hit the drivers! Thank God she slowed down on time. That would have been a terrible incident. That would have hurt either RK, Simon, or Saber. Let's look back at what happened back here. So Katie already getting a bit slidey as they head down to Piratella, but I think it's down into down into Aqua Minerale. Snap overs here, just loses it, almost hits them, but thankfully no harm, no foul.
Yeah, no harm, no foul. Thankfully they were able to get in deep as that corner as they could, which worked out beneficially, but unfortunately it threw off a lot of the drivers because that is the apex. So a lot of those drivers now had to go wide to avoid Katie from hitting them, so thankfully they were able to get around it easily, but that's super unfortunate for Katie. All that, now they're going to have to start a recovery drive from where they are.
Absolutely, that pushes Katie down into last. An unfortunate situation you do not want to be in. Katie will now try to push as much as they can to try and clinch back some places that they've lost on that spin.
Yeah, as we follow along with Saber, they're heading into the chicane. No big deal. It's just been kind of. I want to point out this field is kind of evened out. A 1.8 second off between Azure and Cafe. Nothing too massive at the moment. The closest battle that I could see is between Azure and Wushel, which is about a half a second. So this could turn very interesting if Azure were to make a mistake as we head through Aqua Minerale.
Oh,
And as I say
that is a
that's
mistake! As you're
what is
going
this?
wide!
That is as you're going wide. I need to stop talking, I think. My God, every time I say something, something happens. And that is opening the door wide for Wushel. They are now right on the bumper of Azure. Super unfortunate as they head into the Ravazza complex. As let's see if Wushel's going to try to take advantage going into the complex. They're right on the bumper.
Wushel
Oh,
very
boy.
close to the rear end of that McLaren. Wushel really giving it their all. They saw a mistake and they were going for it. Let's say the least. To say the least.
Mm-hmm. The only person who really took advantage of that would be Caffey. That gap is now increased to an almost 2-second gap as we watch Wushel trying to get
that is Newt. That is Newt in the slipstream of Saber. That GTR, surprisingly, not having the top speed that I would expect, but Newt on the outside, forcing Saber on the inside, compromising their line, making a switchback. No, I don't think they make it a switchback, but this is a switchback. Newt is still in the rear bumper of that GTR. I don't think you do a heroic there, but that was so close.
So, so I want to point out that first off, I apologize, Azure. I didn't mean to curse you, but secondly, that was definitely very close from Newt. They almost had it, but it definitely worked to the advantage of Katie. They've now gained a little bit of time on Newt. If they keep this up, they could catch up Newt very soon.
Absolutely. Azur's now having to hold up the pressure of Wushel, who is directly behind them, trying to do their best. Oh, but as I say that, they both slip around on the Ultra Chicane. That really compromised both their times. I was about to say Azure, but it seems that the both of them lost out.
Yeah, both of them went really deep into that corner as we follow back in the battle with Saber and Newt. Newt is right on the bumper of Saber. They were just trying to find a line. I think they've got it. Yeah, they're going deep into the inside.
It's
that's
so
contact.
close, they almost touch.
Wait, that's
around
contact.
The outside. Saber, that's Azure. Azure spun out and that set them back into 5th. I wonder what happened, but Dude has good position, that's for sure. What's going on? Oh my goodness. Let's look back at Azure. What happened to them? But Katie, no wait, Katie is fighting. Katie might get this position from Saber. Saber gone a little wide, opened the door for Katie, and just let you through as well. This is a really spicing up in the 10 minutes. And it's only been 10 minutes of this race.
Yeah, the first 10 minutes have gotten very interesting very quickly as we have a 4-way battle for the top 4 spot, for the bottom 4 spots. Definitely interesting as we see Saber making a very big lunge going into the Tosa hairpin. That may work, it may not work, but that's the bad line, so I don't think it's going to work for them.
That gives Katie the sniff. Katie is right behind the bumper of that GTR as they head into the Piratella. Will they risk the heroics? No, they don't. Katie playing the wise game and not making a send there, trying to bide their time and finding a easier, less riskier opportunity.
Yeah, that was super sketchy.
Saber late on the brakes, going very wide, almost hit Newt. Once again, Saber late on the brakes. Thankfully, catching that and not making a major incident, but that has given the position to Katie.
Super unfortunate. They got a little bit too deep into the corner and they almost made contact with Newt. So now we're going to see what happened here. It looks like this is going to be on board with Katie to see what happened. It looks like they kind of got... Ooh! They definitely got close, but I don't see any damage, so they must have had a bit of a spook, maybe?
Yeah, thankfully they backed out on time. That would have been a horrible incident.
Yeah, that would have
costed you a position.
That would have cost you a few positions, actually. But as we head back live, we'll see what happens here as we see Katie trying to make a move on Newt, trying to regain what they lost in that spin. Imola definitely showing what...
That's Katie going a bit wide!
That is Katie going a bit wide, and that's Katie going really wide, going out of the... going out, and that was a definitely a little bit of a wiggle there. Definitely giving it everything they've got as they head toward the Tosa hairpin.
Absolutely. Let's look back on that incident of Azure. I wonder what happened. It must be the final corner. Yeah, it is. It should be the final corner. They must have been too eager on the power as they head into Rivatsa. Here we go. This is where it might have happened. As yeah,
Yeah,
they
oh.
just touched the curb and it just spun on them. Unfortunate incident. But I think
Yeah.
Azure right now trying to regain what they've lost at the moment, currently P5 and running away from Newt and Katie, as I say
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, but we gotta think about the damage that Azure has now, because that was a pretty hard hit. So who knows what they're steering or what the car is feeling like right now. I mean, they're gaining time, but we also want to point out that Azure is in a points battle. If my memory serves right, Azure needs to beat, I think, either Wushel or Simon to kind of keep their P2 locked in, but I could be wrong. I'm just going off the top of my head here.
Looking at the championship, it is a race between Azure, Wushel, and Simon, and looks like so far it's Wushel that may take that could take the advantage and maybe steals third, top 3 or top 2, but at the moment Simon looking to have an advantage over Azure as well.
Speaking of, I just noticed something. I don't think RK was there in podium earlier. They must have made a move on Simon, because clearly they're ahead of them. So good on them. They must have had a really good move going into at some point. But now RK's on the charge trying to push Wushel for P2.
Absolutely. No, to correct you there, it was Azure Spin that promoted RK to P3. I think RK has always been ahead of Simon, but Simon clearly closing in on that McLaren. The Aston Martin clearly more comfortable in the wet than the McLarens are. As you saw, Azure spun on that final corner, and Simon's just more confident in his car. It could be the sim rally experience, but in general, the Aston Martin, a grippier car, a more planted car than, let's say, the McLaren.
Yeah, definitely. I know these Aston Martins are really good in these wet weather conditions. They do handle very well, but it's just a matter of, can Simon take advantage of that and try to make a move on RK. There's still plenty of time to go, though. Not even 45 minutes left in this race. So I think Simon might be trying to bide his time at the moment.
Absolutely. As we head into the final corner, it's a battle going on. I saw Newt get a bit loose in the Rivatsa complex as Katie side to side. The blue E Aston Martin versus the Gulf-colored Porsche. Who will win out into the braking zone of turn 1? It looks like Newt has gotten this under control. Thankfully, Newt is still ahead, and Katie still leaves Katie right behind the bumper.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely have a bit of it's definitely an interesting battle as they try to make a move around heading toward the Tosa hairpin. We'll see how it goes as we look to really see what happens here, because look who's coming back from behind. That is Saber trying to regain what they lost earlier.
Absolutely, this battle for 6th place starting to spice up a little bit. It's Newt. I saw Newt go a bit loose, but Newt versus Katie versus Saber. Saber's still a long way back, but definitely making up a few positions.
Yeah, absolutely. As we follow along with Saber, they're definitely on the charge trying to make up what they lost. Heading up the hill toward the Alta chicane. Nice and easy. That GTR is able to abuse those corners a little bit more, but that's too much abuse, I think. Really wide going out of the Alta chicane. That's going to cost them a lot of time.
Absolutely. And Katie's a bit too late. Oh, that was so close. That could have been an incident waiting to happen. But Katie, once again, a bit too late on the brakes. Uh, does this allow Saber a chance? Not yet. Saber is too far behind. As we go ahead, there is Simon up ahead, looking for a sniff against RK, but backing out into turn one. Maybe next time. But Simon already aggressively going for the move, trying to get past RK. This is for P3. This is for the championship. This is for the runner-up. The runner-up championship. But Simon desperately wanting as much points ahead of Wushel.
Yeah, definitely. They've been really consistent, and that consistency has really been paying off as RK gets really loose going out of the Tosa hairpin. That's really big for Simon. They're heading up the hill, but I don't think Simon was able to take advantage of it because they had to let off for fear of hitting them. But that's super. Unfortunately, they were almost able to take full advantage of it, but I think they wisely backed off for fear of hitting them because that was really bad snap oversteer going out of the Tosa hairpin. Thankfully, they were able to save it and really able to keep the position.
Clearly the McLaren struggling a little bit on these wet conditions as those tires start to wear out oh so slightly. Simon looking really aggressive, brake much later than RK did as they try to gain as much slipstream, and it will take one mistake, knock on wood, that doesn't happen to RK, but it could take one mistake for that to happen and to let Simon by. But for the meantime, Simon is biding their time. Simon is being patient with RK, finding their strengths, finding their weaknesses, and trying to take sum those up to his advantage.
Yeah, definitely. You can see that Simon went a little bit wide going out of the final corner, but they were able to kind of keep the gap going because the McLaren definitely was was in a little bit of a better angle, but thankfully they were able to kind of work out of that. That is a big move going into turn two as they head toward the Villeneuve complex. So, wait, something's happened to Kathy.
Oh, I wonder what happened to Kathy. It could be a minor incident, but could be just a simple go wide, that's all. Let's see what happened as they head into the Villeneuve chicane. What did they do? They got the wide. Oh, that is a near miss. Thankfully, Kathy saved that. That could have been terrible.
That could have ended horribly had the brakes had locked up. That would have been straight. That would have been a one-way trip to the wall. That would have really mixed things up. But guess what? That's really giving it advantage to Wushel. They're now 4 seconds down from, I think it was like a 5 or 6 second gain. It was a 6 second gain. And now they've lost 2 seconds because of that move. Let's see if Wushel can take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Wait, there's trouble.
That's an incident. That's a big incident. That's Katie and you. That's an incident in Aqua Minerale. I wonder what happened. That has let Saber by. As we head into the replays, let's see what happened here.
We're on board now with Katie as they head toward Aqua Minerale, heading down the hairpin. I almost want to say that maybe they broke a little bit too late. Does he answer that? No.
No, Katie.
Oh, they broke her.
It is Katie a bit too late on the brakes and just runs to the rear end of Newt, but thankfully they both get out a little bit unscathed. I wouldn't say too unscathed, but Simon looking at the inside of RK almost got it, but still biding their time. Simon really wants past this McLaren. It's clearly slowing them down, and they're just finding a way. They're just desperately finding a way to get past.
They're trying to do everything they can to get around RK, and that Acid is just using every bit of track that it can as they head down into the Tamborilla hairpin. Let's see, they got a little bit of a better exit. Let's see if they can take advantage of it. Doesn't look like it because it looks like the Acid or the McLaren's going to use that speed and run away from Simon.
And as an update from the stewards, that is a 5-second penalty for Katie for causing that collision with Newt down the Aqua Mineral chicane, I assume. I'm not sure. Let me read race control. I believe that they haven't announced it yet, but that's what I assume that is for.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that one, but definitely a 5-second penalty for Katie. We'll get the official result when it comes through our desk. as we keep following along with this battle between RK and Simon. It's been the closest one so far, with 1.3 between them. So all it was going to take for one of these for RK to go wide to make things really interesting.
Absolutely, this is a battle that you should bring your popcorn out for, because it may not look like much, but I think this is going to be an interesting mind games battle, as the pit window is currently open. Who will go for the undercut? Who will go for the overcut? Because the pit games have just begun. Who is going early? No one is going early just yet. I think they are going either halfway or all the way into the end of pit window.
I think, actually, I want to say this. I think the first one that's going to be going in is Azure. They have damage to repair, and they probably also want to fulfill their pit stop. So I think what they're probably going to do is pit super early and try to get ahead of everything. But unfortunately, they're still going to lose a lot of time, because I would be shocked if they have more than, I want to say, like 10 seconds of damage. That was a really hard hit going out of the last corner. So it'll be interesting to see when Azure comes in.
Speaking of Katie and Newt in the background, that 5-second penalty was indeed for that incident in Aqua Minerali. But as you see, Katie going down the inside, can they make the move stick? No! That is so close for Katie, and Katie goes very wide. That rear end of the Porsche flipping around.
That was a bit of a spooky moment. It almost looked like they spun, because they just went off camera as they got a little bit loose. I almost thought they spun, but thankfully they were able to save it, but it cost them a lot of time. And this battle is only working to Saber's advantage, because Saber is now running away with it.
Absolutely, Saber, the benefactor of that incident in Aqua Minerali, the benefactor of the current squabble between Katie and Newt, because Katie is closing in once again with the corner exit advantage. Newt trying to block the inside, but it goes very wide, gives a sniff to Katie as they head into the final corner, and yes, Katie with the better exit speed than Newt, but Newt trying to defend. Newt trying to push as hard as they can with the top speed of that Aston Martin versus the acceleration of that Porsche.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have our first pit stop of the race. That's Simon Luck. They've backed off their race between him and RK to get their pit stop done early as they head into the Tamburello chicane. And Katie definitely had a little bit of a sniff trying to get around Newt. Didn't work out as they head now toward the Villeneuve chicane. And they've backed off a little bit. Because remember, I don't know, if you were Newt, would you just maybe, if they start getting a little bit too aggressive, maybe letting Katie by, especially with that 5-second penalty?
Let's see here. It truly is a bit of mind games. So if I think Katie currently chasing you behind, I think I'd still let him behind. You know, having that position on merit, that's what you want. And if that's too much, then maybe. And thankfully they're in the pit window, so there's that, going for the undercut against Katie.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was thinking, actually, because if they pit early and get the pit stop done early, that's really deep going into Alta, and that almost was another collision with Katie and Newt. Really scary moment.
And that's Caffey in the pits.
Yeah, Caffey's heading in for their pit stop. I think trying to block I wonder if they're trying to get ahead of Azure, but it looks like Azure's just going for the overcut because they are climbing up the field.
Absolutely, trying to recover from that early spin. And speaking of coming in, Newt is coming into the pits. Newt is definitely going for that undercut, as I said before. I don't know if this is probably the team brain cell at work, communicating while you're way apart from each other. I'm in the commentary box, Newt is on the track. We have no way of communicating with each other, but it seems with the team brain cell has connected with between the two of us.
Let's not point out, guess who also just pit? That's Saber right in the back, right behind them. As we see Caffey out and away, this could make things very interesting. If Saber had a little bit of a rougher pit stop, that could mean that maybe just maybe, Newt might be able to get Saber off the pit stop.
Absolutely. You do not want to gallivant around more than you would like. You don't want those extra seconds because that costs you track positions. I can tell for myself. A bad pit stop and the guy who's 3 seconds behind you might as well be ahead. And thankfully, Saber comes out with nothing to worry about, and Newt comes out as well. So this is a good stop for the both of them. But I think Newt had a slight advantage.
Yeah, and as we follow along with Saber as they head out the pits, nice, no problems there. So they had a really good run going into the out of the pits lane. So unfortunately, Newt was not able to take advantage of it, and now they're 4.5 seconds, almost 5 seconds behind. So unfortunately, Newt was not able to take an advantage of it, and it looks like Saber is going to get all the advantage with
Absolutely.
a massive gain heading out of pit lane.
Absolutely, and it didn't help that Newt gone super wide into very wide into Tamriel chicane. Thankfully, not touching the gravel, but that definitely cost him time. As currently, right now, the race leader Wushel is coming up against the first back marker, and that's going to cost Newt even more. Unfortunate, because they have to concede to the number 69 Porsche of Wushel.
Yeah, they had to let off for Wushel, and that's Newt. Ooh, that's really wide actually. Going out of the corner, but I think they're just trying to warm up their tires at this point and not worry about position, because at this point they've got a long way to go with only a half hour left in this race. So
Absolutely.
wait,
What? Caffey's coming in again. What is going on? That is Caffey into the pits again. The recently crowned champion coming in for another stop. I wonder what has happened. Could it be damage? Could it be under fueling? Let's see here as they head into the final corner. That
they're
is
going slow. Oh, you know what they probably did? They probably
What?
didn't set their tires to wet.
Oh yes, that could be one of the factors, accidentally having the wrong set of tires. And I think that's happened to Newt as well. Newt is coming in. I think the both of them have accidentally preset slick tires instead of the wet compounds. This is going to be interesting. This has costed Caffey, and this has costed Newt, and most importantly, this has costed Caffey. So that's another driver out of the equation for the win. So it's either Wushel or Saber. As I say that, Saber goes very wide. That was so close. But unfortunately, Caffey and Newt bringing out the wrong set of tires. That is just an unfortunate situation.
Yeah. And this, you know what this also is? This could be a very big thing for Wushel. They're trying to run this race as long as they can. This is now the lead. If Caffey's now down and away, so I think how long were they in?
I think that was a good 30 seconds or so, but so I think that was a normal tire stop. But right now, Caffey looking much quicker than before, obviously, and Newt's out as well. Hopefully, they brought themselves a nice set of wet tires as well, because Caffey looks like they have done it. But let's just pray Newt is the same case as Caffey.
Yeah, absolutely. But this makes things very interesting, because guess what? That's now 30 seconds that Caffey has to gain on Wushel, because all Wushel now has to do is have an absolutely monumental drive and get their pit stop perfect. If they get their pit stop perfect, knock on wood. They get their pit stop perfect. They get the wet tires on. Then they don't have to worry about anything, and that might be game, set, match for Wushel.
Absolutely, the nearest driver at the moment is RK, who is just 7 seconds behind. But in terms of pit strategy, I'd say Wushel has a bit of a chance, because right now Simon Luck's like 50 seconds. Simon's like 50 seconds behind as Azure comes in for their pit stop. Azure has come in. Hopefully they bring in the wet tires for that RRP McLaren.
Yeah, let's hope that works out, because this could be a massive gain for I think, and that's a drive-through penalty for Saber.
That is Saber with a drive to penalty indeed. Have they breached track limits, or is that a penalty handed out by the stewards in this race? This is going to be interesting
It
as
was said 3 laps remaining, so I believe this was in game, so this must be track limits.
absolutely, as we are getting a confirmation right now from the stewards. They are typing at the moment, but that is unfortunate for Saber in that 523 Nissan. As we reach the halfway mark of this race, Saber trying to rush as much as he can. As you can see, Wushel right behind. That is Wushel, the leader of the race, coming up against another back marker. And as
Yeah.
Saber is trying to drive their way into the pit entry, trying to get this drive-through over with as soon as he can, because right now that is going to cost him quite some time and gonna pull them down to the territories of Caffey and Newt.
Yeah, another thing. Yeah, Simon Luck has just passed Azure. I was actually watching this on my screen. Azure unfortunately lost his position to Simon in the pit lane barely, like by like almost a few seconds. Yeah, it's probably just due to the damage that they had to repair to get out onto the track. But it's still. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably a little bit better than what Cafe had to deal with. They had to go for a completely new pit stop, so this could still work out for Azure Goat.
Absolutely, and confirmation from the stewards that was indeed a drive-through penalty for Saber for track limits. That was applied by the game. That was not applied by the stewards. So you don't really want to bend the rules of these stewards, and you don't want to bend the rules as the leaders are pitting. Here we go. That is RK, Wushel, and Katie all in the pit lane at the same time. Who is going to come out first? Is it going to be Wushel? Is it going to be RK? Is it going to be Katie? Most importantly, will they bring the right tires as Wushel rushes out? That is Wushel with a great roll coming out of pit lane. RK taking a bit longer, and Katie still in the pit lane. I wonder where the nearest competitor is. That is
Azure. It's Azure.
That is Azure.
Azure and Simon.
That is Azure and Simon coming out of the pit lane, but I think they're too late as Wushel goes into turn 2, the Tamborello chicane, well ahead of these guys, and with a really huge margin between them, a 6-second gap to be clear.
6-second gap, only 27 minutes on the clock, so Azure's gonna really have to start pushing in order to start pushing, but RK as well really is going to need to set those laps in order to catch up to Wushel. They could do it. We'll just have to wait and see.
Absolutely. RK and Wushel on the same set, on the same tires. They have the advantage at the moment, and it looks like Wushel, knock on wood, has this in the bag, but it's down to RK to make those laps if they want a chance at the race win.
Yeah, and I'm noticing that they aren't having trouble, so this must mean that they were able to get the wet tires on. Somebody must be listening to the stream and probably pointed it out, because that was I'm not gonna lie, that was a massive mistake from Caffey to not set those wet tires, and very unfortunate
Caffey
too.
and Newt.
Yeah, both Caffey and Newt unfortunately lost out huge because of it.
Absolutely, and that has sent the both of them to the very back of the grid. As you saw, Newt is being lapped by a number of these drivers. They aren't in an ideal situation. They aren't in the situation they want to be in at the moment. Yes, they started last, but they really climbed up the field. They could have gone. They're thinking behind that helmet that they could have gained positions if it weren't for that pit stop.
Yeah, it's super unfortunate. They would have gained a lot of time, I think, had everything gone to plan. But now it's worked out for us, because now it makes things super interesting. As
Katie's spinning again. Is that another victim of the slick tire syndrome? Oh my goodness! I wonder. I think
Did they not change tires?
Katie was in the pits, all right. I don't think they changed the tires, or.
Yeah, they didn't. because
It could, yeah.
I'm looking in game. They still are not technically fulfilled their pit stop. They must have forgotten to change tires.
Absolutely, they were in the pit stop, all right. I think they accidentally set it to fuel only, no tires. No tires, just gas, just like what Lightning McQueen said, and that cost them a victory.
Yeah, unfortunate for them. And now, Wushel, with a nice large gap between her and RK. So all Wushel now has to do is just drive, really. It's just keeping that gap as large as they can and not worry about RK as much, especially now that Simon is actually starting to slowly gain on RK. Now their gap's now 3 seconds.
Absolutely, but at the same time,
there's another stop and go. That's
that is pit speed for sure. That is 100% a pit speed penalty. That is what I assume went on, but Wushel, oh, Katie not having the best time going wide for extra measure, but as I was just gonna say, Wushel just has to drive as carefully as she can. She does not have to make a risk. She does not have to do anything too risky. She does not have to push too hard. But she just has to stay ahead of RK and most importantly ahead of Simon.
Yeah. And I also want to put, wow, that's really loose. Uh-oh. You're not thinking what I think I think it's slicks again. I think
it's slick tire syndrome all over again, is it? I think as we can see.
Let's see how they come out of this corner. If they get loose coming out of this corner, then we'll know our answer once they head into Aqua Minerale. We'll have to see. I think oh my god. Oh yes, that's slick tires. That is 100% slick tires. Slick tire syndrome strikes again.
And a confirmation for the stewards that stop and go penalty was indeed for speeding in the pit lane. That's an automatic set by ACC. It's themselves.
Super unfortunate race for Katie. They had a really good run in the start, but unfortunately, it's all gone into a hamster basket at this point, as Katie has just had incident after incident after incident. It has just not gone their way, and it is super unfortunate. As Katie is coming back into the pits to serve their penalty. As man, that is just not what you want to see.
Absolutely a heartbreaking race for Katie. They had it in the bag, but those mistakes have all bottled up and led to this very moment as Katie serves their stop-go penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see, look in the background, look what's going on here. That's Simon Luck catching up to RK. They're on a charge. They're gaining almost, I want to say, a second almost every lap. So this could make things very interesting, especially since Simon was the one who painted later than RK. So this should make things very interesting because those timers are probably a little bit warmer than RK's.
Absolutely. Looking into chat, we just realized that the wet tires, they don't have the Pirelli markings on the sidewall. No yellow band Pirelli logo whatsoever. So they were on wets all right, but I think they were just getting really loose from all the pressure, from all the stress of having that stop-go 30 penalty as Katie comes out and gets back to racing.
Yeah, definitely could have happened. I also want to point out that I've been there. I went through that last week when we had our race in Spa, or I had a race in Spa. Just you have one little mistake and you just live in your head, and I think that's what's happening to Katie. Unfortunately, you've just got to shake it off and just try to push through it, because you can't let yourself get into your head, because that's how mistakes happen.
Absolutely. The pressure, I could tell from experience too. Once you have that pressure, it's really, really tricky to get back on the groove, but you just have to live with it. You have to go shake it off as quick as you can and get back into your usual momentum.
Definitely, as we keep following this little battle between Simon and RK. Simon is just on a tear. I'm looking at the deltas right now. It is just Simon is just eating away at this gap, and Simon could very easily get past RK if they keep this up because man, they are really on a tear. They're gonna try to maybe even go for the lead at this point. They've got 20 minutes to do it. It very well could be possible.
Absolutely, 8 seconds separating these two from Mushel, and go by the looks of it, Simon with the fresher tires obviously has the upper hand in the arcade, but it's up to Simon to push that Aston as much as he can, get everything right, get everything perfect, and just get the job done.
Yeah, get it done, get it right, and go for that P2 spot because it is definitely there. But unfortunately, that's Simon going really wide, going out of Acme Rally. That's going to cost him a lot of time as they head down into the Alta chicane. Simon is really pushing this Aston Martin as hard as he can to get back up to RK.
Absolutely, Wushel at the moment taking advantage of that, just sailing away. Currently that 8-second gap slowly climbing up. So Simon has to pick up the pace, has to try and put much pressure on RK to get past.
As we follow on board with Simon, heading down the main straight, you can see Simon is really just giving it everything he's got to get up to RK. It has been working dividends as they are now 1.5 seconds away from RK, and that was 2 laps ago. That was snap oversteer going into Tamburello. Good save from RK, from Simon, but that's going to cost him a lot of time.
Absolutely, you do not want to brake on those painted curves. They really upset the car and just keep it off balance. As then, thankfully, Simon has kept that under control. As we see Caffey trying to gain on Saber, the next driver up their list, as they're closing in quite quickly. This Caffey trying to make as much positions as possible. They are indeed the crown champion, so they have nothing to worry about. But that merit of wanting the good position, I think Caffey would love to get past as soon as he can. As you can see, Saber's rear wing. Come on, keep up. Just taunting that wrecking Porsche. But Caffey is indeed keeping up right behind the GTR. And going on the outside, what can Saber do? Caffey wrapping around the outside, forcing Saber into the inside, compromising their line. And Caffey with the switcheroo. I think that's going to be it. As Caffey closes in, side to side, coming to the Villeneuve chicane. It's going to be Caffey. Is it going to be? And Saber backs out. I think Caffey clearly has the advantage and steals that lead. Steals that position, I mean, from Saber.
Yeah, but now we're going to watch that again, and let's see how Caffey was able to do this. It almost looked like they just had a really good run going out of the chicane. Oh yeah, they had a monster run, and Saber went super wide. There was nothing Saber could do except hold on and see if they could try to maybe make a move in the last second. They tried, but it didn't work, and unfortunately caused Saber to get really loose going into the Villeneuve chicane, and that allowed Caffey to just roll on by.
Absolutely. As you see our battle here, Simon versus RK still going on. Simon strangely with a 2-second gap now, so these two are almost on similar time, so it's strange to see that, especially considering Simon's on a fresher tire.
Well, let's point out the fact that Simon also had that lockup going into the chicane, like a really bad lockup. So that unfortunately cost them a lot of time, and now they're trying to regain what they lost, which they are slowly doing, so it's working out so far.
Yeah, but at the moment, Wushel extending that gap once again. A 10-second gap. For a 10-second gap, Wushel is really driving that car. Hopefully she's not overdriving it, but by the looks of it, she's got things under control. Knock on wood. Hitting the apexes and just getting the job done and running away, simple and smooth. That's how it is.
Yeah, I don't think at this point Wushel is too worried about RK and Simon, because at this point RK, I think, is now more worried about Simon than they are Wushel, because Simon is again slowly eating away at that gap. It's still 1.8 seconds away from RK. So if I were RK, I'd be more worried about Simon because they are still on a charge.
Absolutely. The time between the gap between RK and Simon fluctuating 2 seconds, 1 second, 2 seconds, but Simon trying his best to pry his way through through the through the car to the McLaren of RK.
Yeah, doing everything they can, and it's definitely been working out for them. And I think if they keep this up, it could work out in their favor, because I'm seeing like 2/10. It's going from 1.8 to 1.5. They are slowly but surely nibbling away at this at RK's time, and they've got 14 minutes to do it.
Absolutely, it is RK. RK trying to sail away from Simon, but Simon is not giving up. Still 1.5. That is 1 second, almost 1 second behind behind RK.
Absolutely, as RK is at this point trying to do everything they can. That was really deep going into the Alta chicane. It worked out for them though, so I guess they can't really complain too much. But how much did it affect that bounce affect them? Because Simon is now 1.3 behind RK. They are on a roll.
Absolutely, Simon still on that charge of his, but it's little advantages, but in the end I think this is going to play out into P2 for Simon's hands. But let's see, because RK putting up a solid defense despite the circumstances they're in. Great job on them as well for defending as much as he can, just keeping the car planted, just parking it in the right spots, and just continuing on with his race.
Yeah, they're just doing what they can and working with what they've got, and definitely Simon is doing just that, slowly but surely gating on RK as they head out of the Villeneuve chicane. That's really wide, and that was really loose. I think they caught a little bit of that green tarmac going out of the Villeneuve chicane, and that cost them a little bit of time. Not much, though, as they are now back to chasing RK, heading up toward turn 9.
Absolutely, Simon still not giving up, still making that chase, that escargot Aston Martin, still trying to surge forward and try and catch up to that, try and gain a position from that number 250 McLaren, as Wushel once again with a 10-second gap. So Wushel's just keeping it consistent at this rate. So I remember laps ago we were saying that Wushel was like 10 seconds. It's still 10 seconds now, so it's more about consistency on Wushel's side.
Actually, it's almost 11 seconds now between RK and Wushel. So Wushel's actually gained a little bit of time, as we see that that Simon is really closing in the gap. It's now down to a second, less than a second, heading out of the Rivazza complex. That is huge for for Simon. They are now on the charge. 10 minutes to go. Is Simon going to be able to get by RK?
Absolutely, this race starting to get intense, because Simon starting to get into that slipstream of the McLaren as they head into the Tamburello chicane. Once again, they are close up to that rear bumper of RK, but it's up to Simon now to pry his way, try to make the McLaren crack under pressure and just try and seal that position. As I say that, RK looking a bit loose in the chicane, but still making it nicely there. And it's interesting to see the different lines these two are taking. Simon taking a bit wider line, trying to prioritize corner exit, but RK trying to keep it tight, trying to accelerate his way as soon as he can.
Yeah, they're slowly but surely catching up, but it's not been enough. Simon is definitely got his work cut out for him to get by RK because they are definitely trying to hold that gap as much as they can. And, RK's got to hold it off for 10 minutes or 10 and a half minutes before the end of the race. So RK's got a lot on his plate.
Very aggressive on the curves. That is the advantage you have on the Aston Martin. You can just take those curves as much more than the cars like the McLaren or the Ferrari or the Porsche. These front-engine cars are curb clobbers. Take example, the Mercedes, which is well known for being a curb muncher.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, there's no Mercedes in this race, but you can see Simon is definitely taking advantage of that ability to hit those curves a little bit deeper than RK can, and it is paying dividends. Look at this. Simon is really reeling in that gap now, less than a half a second between Simon and RK. Deep into the brakes going into Tamburello. Is it going to be enough? No, it's not, but it's definitely going to give RK a little reminder that they're still there. Here they come toward the Villeneuve chicane. Simon is going wide. I think they're going to try to make a move. They think better of it, but they're going to brake a little bit late, heading into the Villeneuve chicane. Right on the back bumper of RK. They are giving it everything they've got. 9 minutes to go.
Absolutely. Simon getting very aggressive, trying to push that asset to the limit. As he almost got close, but not quite. But Simon, that escargot Aston Martin, really pushing the limits compared to RK, who was slightly struggling to keep the pressure, trying to relieve the pressure as given by the Aston Martin of Simon.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go. They're heading out of Aquamarine Rally. Who got the better advantage of it going out of Aquamarine Rally? I think it's Simon. Look at the gap now. Less than a second still as they head into the Alta chicane. Look how deep Simon Luck is going into those corners. That has really been helping them out in getting on RK. It is now 0.8 seconds. That's still plenty of time and plenty of gap to actually make it to RK.
Absolutely, this battle going down by the wire. Wushel with the 11-second lead, by the way, but the battle for second is over here. It's not over yet. Who will snatch this? Who will snatch P2? How will the podium be sorted out? Is it going to be RK ahead of Simon or Simon ahead of RK? This is a very interesting battle to watch, folks.
Definitely interesting battle here, and it could be anything goes. And I just saw we have another drive-through penalty for Katie. This one is going to be track limits, I believe, as unfortunately as RK is doing everything they can to hold off that escargot Aston Martin of Simon, giving it everything they can, but is it going to be enough? There's only 7 minutes left.
Absolutely. Worse and worse for Katie as well. Having that drive-through penalty, which I assume is for track limits. It's really easy to go beyond the lines here, especially in corners like Tosa. No, that was Piratella actually. I'm getting a little bit sleepy, but hey, it's really easy to go over those lines. It's even easier to go way deep inside of the Alta chicane. So there really is a lot of areas you can breach track limits, and unfortunately, Katie has breached those track limits 1 times too many.
Yeah, it's super unfortunate. As we follow along with what?
RK's disappeared.
RK disconnected.
Is that a disconnect? I think that is a disconnect. That is unfortunate. As we can, let's take a replay to see what happened to RK. Let's take a look at that McLaren. What's happened?
All of a sudden they disappeared in the mist. I think this was a disconnect, unfortunately.
It looks like a disconnect for RK. Unfortunately, that is, anything can happen in sim racing, and unfortunately, as good as RK was defending, his network said no, his computer said no, and just poofed him out of the race, and that is guaranteed P2 for Simon Luck with Azure completing out the podium. Just very unfortunate, very... That's just hard luck for RK. I got to feel for that.
Yeah, 5 minutes left, and they were in the middle of a really intense battle, and then that happens. That's so unfortunate. As we follow along with Simon, that was the closest battle at the moment, as Caffey is almost 50 seconds behind Azure, and Azure is now in a provisional podium with Caffey right behind. So I want to point out, with everything that happened with Azure, the major spin, the damage, and everything that happened between that, they are still able to regain a podium after all of that. So hats off to Azure for staying in it and keeping the race going.
Absolutely. As you can see, Azure, who's a long ways ahead of Caffey. So yes, nothing to worry about, that's for sure. But our current leader at the moment, Wushel, now has a 13-second gap. That is strong pace from Wushel.
Yeah, great pace from Wushel. They've just been I think with all this open air and everything else, they were able to just drive, and now they are catching up to the number 6 car of Katie, who has just had an a really rough time today. But it is what it is. That is racing. But now Wushel is basically on a cruise at this point to victory lane, 3 minutes to go. And all Wushel now has to do is just work on those apexes, keep the car stable, and then that'll be that.
Absolutely. Wushel with a 12-second gap, a huge gap at that, between her and Simon, as Wushel sailing her way right behind Katie. And you can see Wushel taking those corners swiftly, but at the same time, I have a feeling this is a very stable way to take those corners.
Yeah, very nice and easy through the Alta chicane. No risks here. They don't need to take any risks. They've got such a large gap. All it would take, if they had like a major mistake, that could be game over. So at this point, I think it's just up to all we have to do. Absolutely, and with Wushel, all she has to do is keep everything going, and that'll be game over.
Absolutely, and hopefully, as if Wushel comes across Katie, hopefully she will comply to those blue flags, because as I said, blue flags could breed incidents. That has happened several times before in Simufur, and hopefully not in this case, because the two manufacturer mates, the two Porsches, will definitely have to coordinate with each other.
Yeah, just a little bit of coordination, but I think at this point, if I were, well, obviously because of the blue flags, I would just try to find a place to let Wushel by and just try to keep going, because, hats off to Katie. They've definitely been trying to keep that race or to keep in the race. They haven't given up, so hats off to them for that.
Absolutely. As you can see, Wushel closing in on Katie. I feel like a position swap is in need, because Katie going wide. I think that yep, Katie instantly conceded, and that's a spin for Katie. Unfortunate case, but at least Wushel got through safely. But unfortunate for Katie. I think that's Katie in the pits. I think Katie has given up for now. They have completed at least 70. They clearly completed at least 75% of the race. So that is definitely points for Katie.
Yep, points for Katie, and I guess they just decided that was it for them, as Wushel now has open track to themselves. This, I believe, will be the last lap of the Pro Plat Invitational Series here, as Wushel is on their way to the line with really next to no opposition.
Absolutely. We are going on board with the number 69 of Wushel, who is going to close a wonderful, a very interesting inaugural Pro Platinum Series as she heads into the Tamburello chicane one last time. Really smooth, really really smooth and sailing right at the exit as she heads into the Villeneuve chicane, keeping that, yeah, once again, smooth sailing as always, a bit twitchy, but that's down to the rain, that's down to the Porsches. Porsche getting a bit light, a bit wide on the Tosa hairpin, but that's not too much as Wushel gets under power. All she has to do is just get through this circuit as carefully as she can, cause she has 12 seconds ahead of her and Simon, so she has a comfortable lead. She shouldn't push too hard, but Wushel wanting to drive that Porsche to the limit, wanting to get this race as soon as she can, as she heads into the Variante Alta, this lap feeling longer than usual with the pressure of it being the final lap, and you're set to win a race, and Wushel has only 2 corners to go. The Rivatsa complex as they slightly turn right, hard braking into the corner, 1 left-hander, the last corner is over here, 2 left-handers, and it's going to be Wushel who is going to close off the final round of the Simufur Pro Platinum Invitational Series. The number 69 Short Racing Porsche wins this race, and it's going to be Simon Luck 12 seconds behind in that escargot, Aston Martin taking 2nd place. Quite smooth sailing, but I don't think that's an interesting way to finish off. Unfortunate case for RK. I would have loved to see how that battle would have turned out, but Azure Goat right behind, sealing off the podium. That is Wushel, Simon, and Azure for the podium. And right behind him, the number 21 of Cavi going as wide, going very wide, breaking those track limits, because who cares? It's the final lap. But Caffey, the reigning, the recently crowned champion, just going rough on those curves and just trying to get that race done as soon as possible, cause they've done it. They're the Pro Plat champion. They don't have to worry about anything. That's for sure.
Definitely don't have to worry about anything, and will hopefully, just sit back and enjoy it. They've earned this championship win. So with Caffey now heading across the line, we will have only 2 cars left out on the field as Caffey understandably celebrates, gets really loose going out of turn 1.
Oh,
Ooh.
just be careful, Caffey. Oh my goodness!
Oh,
grazing the wall at that.
And here comes Saber heading down the last corner. Nice easy run for Saber, and all that's left now is Newt.
Absolutely, last of the finishers. At least Newt finished the race. That's what matters. And Newt is not dead last as we saw on the grid, but P6. So finishing,
Yeah.
as we can see, finishing is what matters here.
Yeah, definitely. As we look over the standings, it is Wushel with their maiden win here at Imola. Everything, I think this was just like, we all thought it was going to be another Caffey runaway, but unfortunately Caffey made a mistake in the pit lane and lost everything. But they were able to climb back and still return a P4, so at the end of the day, it worked out for him.
And a fastest lap to be the cherry on top. And I wonder, will Wushel do donuts? Because usually at the end of the race, you would want to celebrate that for sure. And
definitely.
yes, Wushel is staying out. Yeah, let's check out the menu. Let's see those donut shows from Wushel. Let's click back.
See if we can get out of the menu. I don't think we'll be able to be honest. But Wushel is now parked it at the line. Let's see. Yep, here we go.
Here we go. Wushel with the donut celebration. The race winner. An absolutely hard-earned win, that's for sure. And that number 69 short Porsche just happy to get that victory. That engine just revving out in joy because they have earned this win. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Everything worked right for Wushel. They were able to get their pit stop perfectly, and this wound up to being a maiden win for Wushel on the very last race.
Absolutely. There is no penalties. There are no penalties to be dished out, and everything is as is. Great job to everyone here. That was excellent racing, and I got to give them credit for what they have done. Because this is quite a sight to look at. That is
Yep.
all right. Looking at our finishers, we have Wushel, of course, taking that victory. Simon in that second place. Third place is Azure Goat, sealing off the podium, and P4 is our champion Kaffy, who has the fastest lap. P5 is Saber. P6 is Newt, last of the finishers, and P7 Katie, who was 4 laps behind. RK 5 laps behind with that unfortunate disconnect, and finishing off and our retirement is MN underscore.
Yeah, who didn't? They unfortunately MNU did not start, so definitely unfortunate. But what can you do? Um, so
Absolutely. let's take one more driver of the day. I say it's Wushel with that victory. Just keep your nose clean and just deliver out there. And she absolutely delivered and took that victory.
I agree. Their Bushel kept their nose clean. They drove, and everything just worked out in her favor. And well earned win from Wushel. So I can't disagree with that. Definitely Wushel would definitely be driver of the day here.
Absolutely unanimous vote for Wushel as driver of the day, and that wraps up the inaugural Simufur Pro Platinum Invitational Series. Thank you for your time throughout the whole season of racing, and we hope to see you. We hope to see you for another championship that if we will be able to broadcast it, that's for sure. Once again, I am Suzuka Shark. Alongside me is Wolfin Foxdale, and thank you for an amazing season that this has been. See you in the next race, next
Yep.
broadcast, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. The next broadcast. Definitely. We'll hope to see you again, and I hope you have a good one.